In 2022, Americans spent $108 billion on lottery tickets. That number would be enough for each person in the US to spend $325 on the lottery for that year. Of course, not everyone plays the lottery, but that's a lot of money to spend when you only have a 1 in 292.2 million chance of winning. The appeal of playing the lottery is to strike it rich, to win the jackpot and be set for life, which is super ironic since 70% of lottery winners will wind up broke eventually. So why am I talking about the lottery? In hearing about the fate of the recent live service game Concord, I couldn't help but feel that the modern live service landscape is a bit like gaming companies playing the lottery. While Concord may be one of the most recent live service games to fall on its face after launch, it is by no means the first, and I'm doubtful that it will be the last. Much like the lottery, live service games seem like an attempt to hit the jackpot. They want to become the next big hit like World of Warcraft or Fortnite or Destiny. On one hand, this is nothing new for the gaming industry. There have always been games that emulate aspects of other games in hopes that they'll be successful. I remember the Doom clones and all of the Grand Theft Auto 3 style games from years ago, and even today you have terms like Souls-like and Metroidvania that show games that have almost defined their own genre or subgenre of the hobby. So it's not really surprising that the various styles of live service games have sparked a similar attempt. The problem is that unlike a single player game, a live service game requires not just good sales, if it isn't a free-to-play game, but continued player engagement. The game is always online, which creates ongoing costs. And a good live service game will continually have new content being released, which again requires more money in the long term than a single-player experience will in most cases. You could dump huge amounts of resources into playing the lottery and developing a live service game, but there is absolutely no guarantee that success will be had and money will be made. With the number of recent failures on the live service front, this point seems to be making itself known again and again. Concord, Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Foam Stars are all live service style games that failed to hit that jackpot. There have been some bright spots in the midst of this with Helldivers 2, The First Ascendant, and Zenless Zone Zero, but that's not a lot and time will tell how well they'll do. I know that Helldivers 2 and The First Ascendant are already not seeing the numbers that they were early on, but that doesn't mean failure is imminent, it just doesn't mean that success will continue either. It also doesn't seem like this live service trend is going anywhere soon either. As part of the 2023 game development report, it looks like 95% of the 537 studios surveyed were working on or aim to release a live service game. 95%. That is a ridiculous percentage. So the lottery goes on hoping that they'll be the ones to hit that jackpot, or at least be sustainable. Now, it may seem like I'm being very negative to live service games, but that's not really my view. I play 3 live service games regularly and have enjoyed others from time to time. So I don't fundamentally have a problem with live service games in and of themselves. However, I do think that 510 out of 537 studios working on live service games is a very bad idea. Which, to be fair, I would think if 95% of studios surveyed were working on any one general style of video game. So why do I think that's a bad idea? Well, let's dive into some of these reasons. First, it's more expensive and is a bigger risk. I've already mentioned this one, but live service games are going to have a higher cost due to the fact that the game is always online and will be receiving some sort of regular content updates over time. This requires a constant source of income to allow for the continuation of the game in the first place. This can make it difficult to see that game live up to the vision you may have had for it in the first place if you don't get the money to see it through. It also makes it so it's hard that if you don't have enough money up front to weather maybe a rocky beginning or things like that, then the game is going to crash hard if it doesn't have that intro that you want it to have and you don't have enough money to kind of sustain through a beginning period. Second, not every game needs to be live service. Marvel's Avengers struck me as a game where this was true. I really enjoyed the story of the game and would have loved more of that and less of the grindy live service aspects of the game. I feel like Suicide Squad would probably fit into this boat as well, even if I haven't played it, but it seems like a game that would have maybe been better if it would have been designed as a kind of single player or maybe even like a jump-in co-op game instead of just a live service grind. Sometimes a live service game might be a good fit for the type of game you're wanting to do, but sometimes it really hinders a game. And personally, I find this true when games try to have a narrative. It can be done, but I feel like some of the aspects of live service make this harder to accomplish, particularly the never-ending need for more content. So it makes having a meaningful ending impossible, as there is always some looming threat coming next, and kind of an incentive to not have a conclusion to your story because you want there to be something more for people to do. Third, you're competing against games that have years of investment and content behind them. Games that have had success have people who are invested in those games and have a lot of progress. Why would I want to go to the newest battle royale when I've invested a lot of time and money into Fortnite? Why go to the first Ascendant when I'm deep into Warframe? Unless your game is doing something better, then it's going to be a hard sell to get people away from the games they're already deeply invested in. Also, it means it can be hard to really compare to these games on release. The amount of content a new game has at launch is going to pale in comparison to a game that has been out for years and years. This can make it hard to get people committed since a newer game might feel rather thin in comparison. Lastly, there's just not enough time for a deluge of live service games. Live service games want your time and money. They want you grinding at their game and getting through all of their content. Like, while you might be able to do a handful of these kind of games at a time, it's just simply impossible to commit to many of these and get all that's on offer. While this may leave room for many live service games to be successful, there is a breaking point where it will be hard for new ones to enter the scene. After all, those games that are successful will simply be added to the already successful ones, making it even harder to enter into the space unless other older games begin to fall off and lose players. It just creates a system that makes it even harder to be successful in than normal game development, which is hard enough as it is from what I understand. The reality is that we probably haven't seen the last of big live service flops like Concord, Skull and Bones, or Suicide Squad. These will continue as the hope of hitting that elusive jackpot remains. I don't think going all in live service is the solution to the problems that the video game industry is facing right now. I think in the long run it will create more problems than solutions, and the real question is, how long will it take for the industry to realize that and course correct? What are your thoughts on live service games and the situation we seem to be finding ourselves in with many of these games failing to meet expectations? Are you all in on live service, or do you think they're a plague upon the gaming landscape? Let me know in the comments so we can continue this discussion. That's all for this video, so I'll see you in the next video.